So, what's the advantage of the summary method? The summary method of listening to the other person and then before you speak, repeating back to them what they've said and what feelings they're expressing to their satisfaction before you speak. So what are the advantages of that method, the summary method? There are several primary advantages to the process of summary. Okay, the first advantage is that you genuinely come to understand what the other person is saying. That's really good. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But if you try, you will discover that it might be one of the most difficult things that you have ever done. Why is that so difficult? It's because people are actually, if you really listen, it might affect you. It might change you. You might hear what the other person is saying and you actually might move towards their opinion. And if you really understand a person in this way, if you are willing to enter his private world and see the way life appears to him, you run the risk of being changed yourself. You might see it as his way. You might find yourself influenced in your attitudes or your personality. So the risk of being changed is actually one of the most frightening prospects that most of us ever face. So we often avoid it, but if you can actually listen to someone else, you also can shift your own thinking, if that works for you. The second advantage to the act of summary is that it aids the person, the other person, the listener, to consolidate and in consolidation and utility in their memory. Consider the following. So a client's telling a long story, or someone is telling you a long story, and you go backwards and forwards, and then you summarize, and then you go backwards and forwards, and they say, no, that's not what I said, and that's not what I felt, and that's what I meant. So then you go to the point where you can listen to it and summarize it. And what happens is the memory gets shorter and shorter and shorter. The account becomes shorter. It is now summed up in the client's memory and in my own memory in the form that we discussed. It is now less weighty. It has been distilled, reduced to the gist. We have extracted the moral of the story. It becomes a description of the cause and the result of what happened, formulated such that repetition of the tragedy and the pain becomes less likely in the future. So there's a learning there. This is what happened, this is why, and this is what I need to do to avoid it in the future. Okay? So that then becomes a successful memory. So the second advantage of the summary method of listening is that you end up with successful memories. That's the purpose of memory. You remember the past not so that it is accurately recorded to say it again, but so that you are prepared for the future. And the third advantage of employing the Rogerian method is the difficulty it poses in this careless construction of a straw man argument. So if you're repeating it back, things get clarified. When someone opposes you, it's very tempting to oversimplify, parody, and distort his or her positions. This is a counterproductive game designed both to harm the dissenter and to unjustly raise your personal status. So by contrast, if you are called upon to summarise someone's position so that the speaking person agrees with the summary, you may have to state the argument even more clearly and succinctly than the speaker has yet managed to do. If you first give the devil his due, looking at his arguments from his perspective, you can, 1, find the value in them, and 2, and learn something in the process, and 2, hone your position against them if you still believe that they are wrong, and strengthen your arguments further against challenge. This will make you much stronger. Then you will no longer have to misrepresent your opponent's position and may well be bridged at least part of the gap between the two of you. You will also be much better at withstanding your own doubts. So Couple of advantages in using the summary method when you're listening to someone. Give it a try.